Hi, good day, everyone. My name is Olabi Adenio, and I welcome you to today's edition of our live coding session. And today, as it was said previously, we shall be focusing on using Azure DevOps, the Azure DevOps platform, and integrating it for workflows. So this is something that you guys should also have seen in your course materials, because if I remember correctly, there was actually someone that came up to me, someone that messaged me actually and asked me on the group how to access the Azure DevOps platform. So um, that's one of the reasons why I'm even taking this LCS, and we'll be doing it in two stages. So our LCS for this stage is going to be in two. So today we'll just be focusing on a brief overview of just a basic overview of what Azure DevOps platform is. So it will just be like a semi reiteration and then me expanding on what was in the lecture notes. And then I will now be moving on to saying more about what we have in something, saying more about what we're going to be doing in the next coding session. So the next coding session is where we're going to have a little bit of coding and then seeing a pipeline work in real time and then other stuff like that. So the fact that today is also a public holiday, I won't be taking too much of our time. In the next 30 minutes, I should be done with everything, hopefully. So this is the Azure DevOps platform homepage screen. So it is actually a bit different from the Azure platform. The Azure platform itself is another entity. They are both integrated together. Yes, they're provided by Microsoft, but it is like a set of development tools that is focused only for DevOps practices. So instead of integrating this alongside the whole of the cloud functionalities that Microsoft provide, they have a separate one for DevOps guys that makes their work easy and more streamlined. So it is used for doing efficient planning, development, testing, and software. And also, since the name of our stage currently is continuous integration and deployment, so Azure DevOps it helps us with a way to make sure that we have a CI/CD pipeline in check where every change that we're making is being integrated automatically and being deployed ASAP, as long as it has been approved for deployment. So when you come to create an account, because my account is logged in already, you should not see that page. But to create an account, all you just have to do is to just say Azure DevOps login. That's using a search page as it is now. So the first thing you should see is the Azure DevOps services. You open your link, and when you open your link, you should see this here. You don't have access and stuff. So this is due to the account I'm using, but I have logged in my page already, and I'm good to go. So when you want to log in, you have the option to, when you create an account, you have the option to do so with GitHub. You have the option to do so. You have the option to do so with GitHub. You have the option to do so with your Microsoft accounts, even your Google account and stuff like that. So that's what the Azure DevOps platform is. So to log in, this is an account in it. So that's that on that. And then, so that's the first thing you see here, Azure DevOps. You are able to sign in. So when you're able to sign in, you create your account and you sign in. So after logging in, you'll be asked to create a new project. So this was the project I created yesterday to just have a demo of what I'm going to redo today. So to see everything that you can access, it has to be in a project. So to start on a fresh page, I'm going to create a new project. I'm going to call that the LCS. Let me call that the CI/CD. Okay, cannot contain that. So CI, okay, I can have this LCS1. Okay, so this LCS, I'm going to be using it, and I'm going to make it public. So when you create your account originally, it will tell you that you cannot make a project public. Why? Because the idea is that this thing is made for organizations. So as an organization, you want to restrict the amount of people that has public access to your project that you are working with to get. So you have to like enable a settings in your account. It will tell you these are just things that you see. I think I can just show you here, like this button here. I'll show you. It's called organization settings. So in your organization settings, that's where you can select that you want to be able to create projects that are what public for anybody that has the link to be able to what to view them. So I'm just going to do this. So this is the project, and I'm going to create the projects. Okay. So after creating the project, so we are going to be talking on the key components of what the Azure platform gives to us. So as you can see, they are listed here already actually. The first thing we have is what you can see them listed as icons there. That's boards, repos, pipelines, test plans, and artifacts. So these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these are what the full components. These are basically the key components. They branch out into other different things, but these are the key things that Azure DevOps provide us with. That is enable us to do what? To enable us to create a perfect working environment. With Azure DevOps, you can like keep track of who is doing what, we do is doing what. So let's go to the first thing. Let's go to the boards. So in the boards, this is where you see what? This is where you see a tracking system. So here you see that you have open in queues, other options, column, blah, blah, blah. But in the board, you can create work items. And with these work items, you see, you can create an epic, you can create an issue, you can create a task. So an issue is something that, okay, it is an issue that you see probably as the DevOps manager, you have found an issue, or anybody that is working on this project found the bug. They create an issue, and then once that issue is created, other guys will look at it. Okay, an issue has been created, and whoever is meant to work on it to pick it up. But as the, let's say, project manager, you want to create a task, you can just decide to create a task here, and that task will be assigned to someone. I won't be able to do task assignments. Why? Because I don't have any other person on this team. But you get, so this is basically, so I'm going to enter the title. Let's say task 1. And this is going to be what? Creating the web app. So I'm just going to do that. These are just description. These are just descriptions that we use. Create the web app for pipeline later. Pipeline later. So this is just me trying to show you a basic demo of what it is we are trying to do here. You get, so with this you can give it a priority of, okay, is it very important on the scale of 1 to 4? How important is it? Is it a to-do task that it has to do? Or you get, you can just give it the name of the task and the description. These are actually the most important things that should be done at first. And then when you save the task and you go back to the board, you can see that your work item will be what? The work item will be shown. So we have a task that is what? What type of task is it? It is a task. It is assigned to, we have nobody that is assigned to, unfortunately, and that's because, so let me assign it to me. So I should be able to assign this task. I'm going to assign it to what? I'm going to assign it, oh sorry, this is a filter. So I'm going to click on this task here, and I'm going to what? Assign the task to myself. Okay, so I'm the only one in this place, and I'm going to assign it to myself, and I'll save that, and that was all. So if there are other people on the team, you can do what? You can assign the tasks to other people. So if I go back to the work items under the board, so this is our board. If I go back to the work items, you can see that we have a task here and it's assigned to me. So if I come back to the Azure board, exactly, this is our task. So that's the first thing. So with Azure board, you can have like a list where you see everything that is needed to be done, and everything that is needed to be done is what is going to be itemized and in a priority of order. So the person that is assigned to can then make updates, and you guys can have discussion based on whatever that it is on the board. It allows you to be able to what? It allows you to be able to monitor and track the work that is being done. So you can customize your board in other ways actually. So if I come to the board, I think we should be able to open inquiries. So this is just another way of viewing your board. So with queries now, you can be able to exactly search. So it's a way of like searching through your board to know, okay, let's say it's a lot of tasks you get, and then the common searching and stuff to be able to perform advanced search on whatever it is contained in your board. And the next thing we have is what? Azure repos. So you can see Azure repo as what? Azure repo is like a repository with GitHub that we are all familiar with. So for every project will require files, every project will need files, every project will need the source code and stuff. So Azure repo is like a version control system, just like a Git repo, that what allows us to store and manage source code. So with this, it's just like you have a repository that you can what? You can clone this using SSH, using HTTPS. You can do all of this. You can clone this on your desktop as you would a normal GitHub repository. You can initialize a README repository and stuff like that. You can even import a repository. Let's say you want to exactly, you're importing a Git repository. So this is TFVC. This is another type of versioning system, a version control system. When you are going through your course materials or in the course of going through them for this stage, you see what a TFVC is and what Git is. So they are both the most popular, one of the two of the most popular implementations of versioning of our version control system. So this is if you want to GitHub that is the most popular, and GitLab is also another Git. They are Git version control systems. And then there's TFVC. I think there's one that is implemented by Microsoft, and the other guys that their version control system is based on TFVC. And with Azure DevOps, you can bring any of them into your project. So with this, you can clone them, save files, view the files that are inside, and you get these are the files that anyone that is assigned to a task can work on, and the team can work collaboratively on it. So the next thing that we're going to be talking about is the Azure pipeline. So the Azure pipeline is where the CI/CD work is being done. So the planning, the testing, the building, the deployment process, where we make our code publicly available, like the flow from committing and pushing a code to your GitHub repo to the deployment of that code can be created with what? Azure pipelines. And under Azure pipelines, you see we have pipelines, we have environments, we have releases. The guy that asked me the question, I think it was on releases, and these are all things that can also be, you will see as demo in your course material. So when you create an account, you can actually, the account is something that is free, I think, for the basic usage. So all of the demos we have on the courses are things that you can do are things that you can practicalize when you create an account with Azure DevOps. So these are the pipelines, and the next thing that we're talking about is what? Azure test plans. So Azure test plans is like a testing framework. If you remember our last coding session, we used what? PyTest. PyTest is a testing framework. What do? They help us to ensure that our code is running the way it should, and we have the we have the correct output from our code, basically. So that is what tests. That's what Azure test plans is. So it is a testing framework that allows us to to plan, track, and discuss testing activities. So we can automate our testing just like the way we did with the action file in the last track. You can automate testing. You can assign tests to what? You can assign tests to some practices. You can assign tests to some users, and you can allow tests and a testing and a feedback kind of stuff where some people on the team are just designated testers. So you assign them to tests that have been created, and then they perform those tests and give feedback based on the response of those tests. And the last core component is the Azure Artifact. So what Azure Artifact is a package management system. A package management system in the sense that it is used to create and share packages. What do we mean by packages? If anybody has worked with Node, Java, if you work with JavaScript or something like that, if you know what Node package, you should know what Node package manager is. That's npm. So it is the package manager that is used to maintain packages in that operating system. For Python, it is pip. Pip is the I think it's Python index package or something, packager or something. So these are this is an example of, this is the the online example of what those stuff are. So Artifact is what allows us to be able to work with packages that can be added to our projects in the Azure DevOps platform. So with artifacts, this will also be extensively explained in your course materials. We'll be able to what host packages. So with this now, we can from here host our package. For example, people that are very good with Python, if you have worked on a package before. So a package is like a list of different Python codes that work together to perform a particular function. So you can basically create something like that here and then make it publicly available to anybody using the artifact component of the Azure DevOps. So those are the basic things that the Azure DevOps provide us with. The first thing is the board. The second, this Azure board exactly. So with Azure board, we have work items, we have bug, we have backlogs, we have sprints. So sprint is something that you should have heard about when in the first stuff when we're introducing DevOps. So sprint is like a work session. So sprint is like, okay, sorry for that breaking transmission. I'll just keep sharing my screen now. That was just the network fumbling unexpectedly. Okay, so as where I stopped was me going through the boards again. So as I was saying, we have boards. In boards, we are seeing work items. We can have different boards for different for different segment of projects or different segment of tasks in a project. They are backlogs. So backlogs are tasks that are meant to be completed but are not they are not of priority at the moment. So let's say we have 100 tasks that we are going to do. So you can come to the backlog, you get, and then create them. It's like creating a draft. So when things on the drafts are done, you bring things from the backlog and then move them to and then move them to the board, basically. So this allows you to not clutter your board with too many things that you will not be able to focus on the important things that you need to work on. So things that are not important but they are still going to be worked on, they are called drafts. We add them in the backlog. So sprint is a DevOps term that you guys should have. Is like a schedule. So you can have a sprint is that the way DevOps is, and we're using agile methodology, is that what we want to have a task that must be completed we don't want to complete the whole project at once. We want to complete little tasks in little short amount of times. So we have a sprint. Let's say a sprint is usually we do it for 2 weeks or a week, depending on how large task is. So we can have a sprint for 2 weeks, and we have to make sure that by the end of that sprint, the task that was meant to be done has been completed. So this is where you have a sprint where you create all of the sprints that you have for that project. So if you are going to have a 100 sprint of 2 weeks, you'd have created them down, and then automatically each sprint you assign different tasks to different sprints. So by the end of a sprint, you are sure that all your tasks have been completed, and the next sprint comes up with its own tasks. So that's it for board. For repos, so we have commits, we have files. This is basically just Git functionalities. So we can see all of the file in the repo. We can see the commits that were made and revert commits. We can see the pushes. We can create different branches to work on different things. Pull requests can be merged just as it would in a GitHub account also. And we have pipelines. So this is actually the bone of contention, and this is where most of the stuff go through. So we'll be working with this extensively. In our next coding session, where I'll create an environment. We'll create different environments to be deployed. You should also see something like an A/B testing environment. So you have a blue-green deployment methodology where you have two environments. One is green, one is blue. So anytime you want to make an update, let's say your current deployment is in the green environment. So both in the first instance, both environments are identical. They are blue-green. Both of them have identical deployments, but that's only for the first time. For other iterations and other deployments or updates that are made to the stuff, you use, let's say the green environment and the blue environment are what they are the same for now. So I want to use my blue environment as the first one. So every update that I'm going to be making will be made to a deployment to be made to the what the blue environment. Meanwhile, people, the users, end users outside will be connected to the what to the green environment. So when I'm sure that all of my update and changes I want to make is working in the green, in the blue environment, you get, then I'll now redirect people from what? From the green environment that they were on before. I'll redirect them to now the blue environment that has what? All of these updates that I've made. And then after doing that, I'll now replicate those updates in the what? In the green environment. So the next time I want to make an update, where will I go to? I'll have to go to the green environment that people are not directed to once I'm done with it. So that's the blue green. It's something that you see in your course content and is a methodology of deployment that enables what? That is your website is always continuously accessible. So nobody will get the update until you are sure that it is working perfectly. And since both environments are a replica of each other, you are able to ensure that if it has worked in one environment, it's definitely working with another environment. So releases is also like a version of different releases. So it's another way of checking your stuff. Once you make a release and you see that this release is not really hitting the spot, or there's an error in the release, you can come back here and then revert your release that was released previously. So those are exactly the release pipeline. So we'll be focusing more on this, just like as a this 1221 already. So about test man, exactly the testing framework and other stuff like that. So for our next sample session, so this project has been created, you get, we'll set up the Azure repo. So after setting up the Azure repo, and inside the Azure repo, we'll add a sample flags file. I'm thinking of using the random generator. Was it a random code generator file that we used previously? I don't know if it is for this session or for the previous one, but I know I've worked on a Docker that was deployed. I think it's for the last session. We used Azure App Service. So I don't know if you guys can just go through and try to see it, but it's not necessary. So I will try to implement like pulling the Docker file from that previous live coding session, the Docker file that was created here, and use it here. I will expand more on this when we start the next coding session. So as I was saying, this project has been created. So what we'll do is we are going to come here and set up the repo. So after setting up this repo, we'll commit the file to what? We'll have to commit the files to have like a basic website going on. So after committing the basic websites that we know that we are going to test it locally, I won't create the website newly. So I'll test the website locally because it's something that I've created before, and is something that we are going to do for stage D and E. So another website. So but for stage D and E, I'm thinking of not using a website, but another thing. So I will not create the website from fresh, but we'll test it locally, and I'll just show you the source code. So all of those source code will be committed into this Azure repo. So after committing them into this Azure repo, then we'll now come here and define the pipeline. So the pipeline that we'll use is we are going to be using both the YAML file and the Visual Designer, where we are going to we are going to specify the build step for different the different step that it takes to deploy that web app, and I'll also configure triggers to automatically start the pipeline. So after that, then so there are two parts. You get is continuous integration and continuous development and deployment. So in this pipeline, we have a first pipeline for integration. That's the pipeline that does build the code, add the code and stuff. So after that, we now have another pipeline that does the deployment. So the deployment task would also be done. It will be a very simple one. And then if time permits us, we'll also try to do a monitor and feedback stuff. So most of our coding and stuff will be in the next coding session, and that should happen next week, Thursday. That's the time that has been stated for that. So we'll be using Azure DevOps, and then we'll have a full pipeline that goes from local to deployment with just one push. So after doing the first deployment and working on it, that it has worked successfully, then the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to now do an update, in the sense that we are going to make a minor update to the app, maybe add some color and stuff, and then trigger the pipeline to automatically deploy the update that was made to the web app. So thank you all for coming for today's coding session. Today should be a public holiday naturally, and you guys are meant to be doing other stuff. But Thank you for coming up and showing up. I hope you have been enjoying the course so far. Do not hesitate to ask me any question on Slack. If you have any issue with any of the course materials, I'll be happy to help anybody and reply. So if there's no, if you have any question, you can just drop it on the chat channel. And if there is no question, then I'll take that as the end of today's coding session, and then we can all regroup and meet each other again next week, Thursday. So I'm going to be next week, Tuesday. Oh, yes, next week, Tuesday. The time and date will be, as usual, be communicated to us on Slack, but the our MOE coordinator just notified me I should be Tuesday and not Thursday next week. So our next LCS will be next week, Tuesday. Sorry for that error. But as usual, the time, and we use the regular links, but the time will be communicated to us on the channel in Slack, and then we'll go from there. So since I did not get any message from any other person, I'll take that as a wonderfully done session. So Eid Kabir to everybody, and have a wonderful